Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavat Padam Shankaram Loka Shankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashya Krutau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punah Ishvaro Gururatmeri Murti Bheda Vibhagine Vyomavad Vyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha. Chaitanyam Sarvagam Sarvam Sarvabhuta Guhashayam Yat Sarva Vishayatitam Tasmai Sarvavide Namaha. Tasmad Bhrantiratu Nyahi Bandhamokshadi Kalpanaha Sankhya Karnada Bauddhanam Mimamsa Hatha Kalpanaha Shastra Yukti Vihinatvad Nadartavyah Kadachana Shakyante Shatasho Bhaktum Doshastasam Sahasrashah Apinindo Papattescha Yanyato Jnani Chetyatah Tyaktvato Hyanya Shastrokti Matim Kuryad Dridham Buddha. So these verses, the teacher shows how the Sankhya Karnada Uddhanam Bandha Mokshadi Kalpana. The Kalpana, the conclusions, imaginations, thinking, let us say, about Bandha and Moksha. We call it Kalpana because they are not based on reality or based on even reasoning. Of Sankhyas, Karnadas, Bauddhas, Bhranti, they are nothing more than Bhranti, meaning that they do not understand what bondage is, what moksha is. Atha Anya even Kalpanaha, Bhranti, all these Kalpanas other than what Vedanta teaches, yet Bhranti is bondage. And Bhranti Nivrutti is moksha, liberation. Other Kalpanas are Mimamsa Hatha Kalpanaha. They are Mimamsa Hatha, bereft of Mimamsa, bereft of Vichara, bereft of true deliberation. They have not done, therefore they have arrived at these conclusions. Shastra Yukti Vihinatvat. There is no support from Shastra, meaning Vedas, no support for Yukti, also reasoning. Adartavya Kadachana. The mumukshus or the aspirants should never respect them, never accept them as valid. Also, shakyate shatasho bhaktam doshas tasam sahasrasha. And more we think about them, more logical inconsistencies we can find in them. And hundreds and thousands we can find. Apinindo. And all these modes of thinking, all these theories or the conclusions which are based on Shastra other than Vedas, Nindo Vattescha, because they are subject to Ninda, they have been condemned. Yanyato Yanyachet Tataha. In these verses, any Shastra other than the Vedas should be looked at with suspicion. Don't accept them simply on their face value. Examine them. Subject them to scrutiny. That's Shankaniyani. You should question them and not accept them as they are told. Ya Veda Vahya Smrita, even the Smritis also, which are outside the pale of Vedas, they are all sarvaha, taha, nishvaraha. They are also nishvaraming totally without any purpose or without any benefit. Atah anya shastrokti matim tyaktva. Therefore, giving all the mati, the conclusions of other shastras, kuryat drudam buddha, the buddhiman. So, drudam mati kuryat iti anvaya. Shastrokti tyaktva buddha drudam matim kuryat. In the Vedanta, that there be firm conviction. So if you need to analyze other Shastras or conclusions of other thinkers, you may do that. But with a questioning mind, not with a believing mind. So look for inconsistencies in their conclusions. And that way you will have a firm conclusion about the validity of the vision that is presented by Vedanta. So when that conclusion arises, and then the next verse is Shraddha Bhakti Puraskritya Hitva Sarvamanarjavam Vedantasya Tattvarthe Vyasasya Vimate Tatha. Matim Dhram Kuryat. Shraddha Bhakti Puraskritya. Shraddha and Bhakti Sukta Chityukti Arthe Vishwasa. The trust that one has in what the Shruti reveals and how the teacher unfolds the Shruti. Bhakti Tatparata. Having had that conviction and the trust, then a total commitment to making that as a reality in my life. Te puraskritya adarena avalambya. Resorting to them, making them as the very basis with adara, with respect, with reverence, with enthusiasm. Saram anarjam hitva. What anarjatvam is there within oneself. Anarjam, any crookedness and dishonesty that one may have. Hitva, giving up. So don't cheat yourself. Cheating others comes from cheating one's own self. And so accept the realities. accept the reality about the world, accept the reality basically about yourself. And by that reality is meant, accept the limitations of yourself. What is meant by accepting reality is accepting limitations and limitations of one's own self. That is why we have a problem. No problem with limitation as such. It becomes a problem when connected with the I. That I am limited, I am inadequate, I am not intelligent enough, I am not smart enough, etc., etc. The expectation that one has for one's own self. And when one finds oneself lacking, not able to live up to one's own expectations of oneself, and these expectations will come from the world, from living life in the world, comparing oneself with others. That's what human being does. And so, make believe that I am all right, everything is okay. Even though one may find those deficiencies in oneself. And all the deficiencies are going to be only samsaric anyway. There are deficiencies in the body, in the mind, in the intellect. When can the deficiency be? And they will always remain deficient regardless of what you do. Not that you should not do something about them, if necessary. If you need that, you should overcome any deficiency for the sake of pursuit of knowledge, then it's understandable. Other than that, leave the upadhi where it is. And bhakti tatparata, your commitment is only to moksha and to self-knowledge. And whatever preparation is required, Shraddha, Bhakti, whatever is required, you work on them. And whatever other deficiencies you find in yourself, which are not relevant to this pursuit, let them be. What does it matter? But what will the world say? Well, there's not much you can do. Not that you announce your deficiencies, nobody says that. At the same time, if they become evident and then you can't stop it, well, let it be. If I accept myself as I am, I will not have much difficulty in presenting myself as I am. Anyway, hitva asram anarjavam vedantascheva vyasasya vimate tattvarse madrim durjanam kuriyam. And also in Vedanta, which is what Vyasa has said in Brahma Sutras, that is where the Jiva Brahma Aikyam, that is where we have Dhram Matim, a firm conviction. Because more from the conviction is what leads us in our life. And so that Vyavasaya, Samyak Vyavasito hi saha, Vyavasaya or the conviction, Samyak Vyavasaya, a conviction which is about the right thing and then a firm conviction. That's what will ultimately clear the path for accomplishing the end. Evam uktam parapaksha nirakaram sankshipya. So having stated the vision of Vedanta, the teacher took time for parapaksha nirakaranam, for refuting the paksha, the opinions, the positions of para or the others, Avaidikas or non-Vedantins, dualists. Sankshipya. In next verse, first of all, the teacher summarizes or says in brief the parapaksha nirakaranam, the refuting that has been done of the other pakshas, other disputants, other vadis, other thinkers. Tat prayojanam kathayati. What was the reason why parapaksha nirakarana was done? So first of all summarizes that Parapaksha Nirakaram, refuting of the opponent views, and the purpose of that refuting also is being stated in next verse. Iti. So next verse is verse 68. Iti pranunna dvayavad kalpanaha niratmavadasya tatha hi yuktitah vyapeta shankah paravadatasthiraha mumukshavo jnanapathe surityuta. Iti dvayavada kalpanaha niratmavadasya yuktitah pranunnaha. This is the Parapaksha Nirakaram, Sankshepa of the Parapaksha Nirakaram. This is what we have done. Iti ittam yuktitah. By the yuktis, the reasonings that we have provided. Pranunnaha comes the root nud. Nudakshepane, in the sense of to remove or to throw away. Meaning to dispel. Pranunnaha, pranud means to dispel, drive away. So, therefore, Parapaksha Kalpanaha Pranunnaha. All the imaginations or the conclusions or positions of the other Pakshas, based on other than non-duality, Pranunnaha, they have been dismissed. So, dispelled with what? Yuktitah. So, Nirakritaha, refuted. Dvayavada kalpanaha, bhedavada kalpanaha. And so the conclusions based on taking bheda or duality is real, which includes all of them, which includes of course the Mimamsaka, Mimamsakas were not necessarily taken up much, but then the Vaisheshika, the Sankhyas, Charvakas of course, Jainas, Bauddhas. So earlier ones come in the Dvayavada Kalpana. The Sankhyas, Vaisheshikas, all of them come in the Dvayavada, Dvaitavada, giving reality to duality. Niratmavadascha and Buddhas are all Niratmavadaha. They do not accept the existence of Atma, existence of any abiding reality. Yuktitah pranunnaha ityartah. So they were all removed, dispelled, refuted, yuktitah, with proper reasoning. So this is what has been done. Why was it done? Kimasam? It is not, you don't dismiss and refute things for the sake of refuting or proving yourself to be great. This is done for the sake of the aspirants, done for the sake of mumukshus. Vyapeta shankaha paravadatah mumukshavaha paravadatah. Again, fifth case, tasil pate parashastrebhya viveda shankaha syuhu. So that mukshus, the sincere aspirants, paravada parashastrebhya, because those thinkers also present their views in a logical manner, in what appears to be logical manner, which perhaps an ordinary person may not be able to see the inconsistency there, which may require a very subtle intellect to see the inconsistency there. So we had to show that. In case Mumukshu himself or herself did not see the inconsistency in the Sankhya, Vaisheshika, and all these other, even Mimamsa, all of them also, that's why we showed them. Not to dismiss them, refute them, but for the benefit of Mumukshu, who is likely to take them to be true, on account of inability to see the inconsistency, the logical inconsistencies there. In short, this refuting was done purely for mumukshus. Paravada, parashastrebhya, viveda shankaha. Those shastras will create shanka in you. I understand, yes, that Jiva Brahma Aikyam is what Upanishad teaches. But Vaisheshikas have this to say, Sankhyas have this to say. What about that? And so, Vipeta Shankaha, that would create Shanka or doubt in the vision of the Vedanta. First of all, what is the vision of Vedanta? There, whatever doubts and problems are there are clear during Shravanam. Having understood what the Vedanta says, then also the view of the other thinkers may create in my mind doubt that this is what he says, he's a great man, he's a great Rishi. And therefore, regardless of longer the beard, greater the doubt. So Rishis have long beard, so you should have greater doubt. Don't just take them as they are. Anyway, so Vipeda Shankat Tat Pramanika Shankarahita. They can see how it is not Pramanika, not based on Pramana, not based on Shruti or even Yukti, Shruti, Smruti, Yukti. They are not based on any Pramanas. So when this mind is free from all doubts, then Jnana Pathe Sthiraha Syuhu iti. Jnana Vedantokta Jnana Marge, the path of knowledge. Vedantokta Jnana Patha Marge, Jnana Marge. On the path of the Vedanta, path of the knowledge, pursuit of knowledge as taught by Vedanta. Everybody teaches knowledge. Mimamsaka also say, in Vaisheshika say that you know all these padarthas and you get liberated, and that's what the Sankhyas also say and so forth. Naiyayikas. Vedantokta jnana marga sthira. That's very clear exactly what it is that I am seeking. I am seeking to know the non-duality or identity of Jiva and Brahman. I am seeking to realize how my conclusion about myself are wrong, how in reality I am Brahman, the limitless, and what is the limitless. This is what I want to see. Sthiraha. In that case, all limitations are mithya. If limitlessness is truth as Vedanta reveals, then all limitations are mithya, meaning they are apparent and not in essence right. Same limitless thing can appear as limited, that's one way. Either the limitations that I experience are what they are, or something else is appearing as a limited things. Either the duality is real, or something else is appearing as duality. Either limitedness is real, or something else is appearing as limited. But other schools of thought are all based on what is perceived. So duality is real. I think I am a limited being, so that also is taken to be real. And then they justify that and then try to give you the way out of that. But that basic conclusion about yourself is wrong. And the basic conclusion about the world also is wrong. Everybody entertains the conclusion about Jiva, Jagat, Ishvara, it is natural. It is the nature of the intellect to have a conclusion. But the conclusion is arrived at in a very sophisticated manner, like Sankhya and Vaisheshika and so forth, or arrived at without thinking. But everyone has conclusions. Without those conclusions, you cannot live your life. So, conclusion about Jiva, Jagat and Ishvara plays its role in every decision that we make, everything that we do. We may not quite realize that. So when we look into what makes me think the way I think, what makes me do what I do, I'll be able to see what my conclusions are. And then I will see how those, then I compare them with what Vedanta teaches, whether is it right for me to give reality to those conclusions, validity to validate my conclusion, because that's what I do. I always try to validate myself, prove myself, because I need to prove myself to myself. I need to feel that I am right. That's my need. And that's what I always try to do. To the world I try, then I think I'm alright, if the world says. This game is always going, constantly going on, without anybody's fault. Not realizing that the way I am feeling about myself, that conclusion itself is wrong. Not realizing that. And all those schools of thoughts are based on that conclusion. So when the basic conclusion is wrong, basic foundation or basis is wrong, you can never arrive at the right answer. So the whole quest will be meaningless or will be fruitless, futile. Therefore be clear about what the end is and what the means is. Then I will not get deviated or doubtful if something, then wait a minute, I thought this and this is what it is. So when I have chosen a path to reach, let's say, destination, Kedarnath, and then there are supposed to be some landmarks, I don't see them, and the doubts are there. So if that conviction is not there, then the doubts can keep on arising every step. So firm conviction, not make believe, use your own reasoning. And then you should be honestly convinced. Vedantokta jnana marge sthiraha syuhu bhaveyuhu. That they will be firm in pursuit of the knowledge as prescribed by Vedanta. Syuhu ityuta. That's verse ityuta. Uta means api, iti api. So two things are there. Vyapeda shankaha paravadataha sthiraha mumukshava. So, vyapeda shankaha paravadataha. All shankas created by the vada, conclusions of the others, all the shankas should go. And jnana pathe sthiraha syuhu. And they should be firm on the path of knowledge. For this reason, we have done this. So we should know why the Vedantic teachers do this. You know, Shankaracharya went around, demolished all thinking. Saptati. 72, that's what it says. 72 kinds of thinking or matas were there, and apparently Shankaracharya showed the defects of them, inconsistency of them. So that is what he did, not for demolishing them, for the purpose of the mumukshus. Vedanta Vihita Brahmatma Jnanasyeva Purushartha Dhanatmamiti. Vedanta Vihita Brahmatma Jnana. Brahmatma Jnanam, knowledge that Brahma is Atma or Atma is Brahma, knowledge of the non-duality of Atma and Brahma, that you are Brahman and Brahman is you. This is a primary teaching, Tattvamasi. And that is one shot eliminates two basic problems. I have a problem about Tat as well as Tvam. So Jagat and Ishvara included in Tat-pada. A problem with Jiva, Jagat, Ishvara, I have a problem with each one of them. As far as Tvam is concerned, Jiva is concerned, I am concerned, I know that I am a conscious being. I know that I am. but that I am limited. So there is aparoksha jnana, immediate knowledge of the self, because it is self-revealing. By knowledge or conclusion is, I, the self, is limited. I know that God, Brahman is limitless. But Brahman is remote, away from me. So these two basic conclusions are there about the self. Self is limited. About God or Brahman, that He is someplace else. This is not Brahman. I am not Brahman for sure. If this conclusion was acceptable, if this conclusion did not create any problems in my life, then it doesn't matter. There are many false notions in our life anyway. As long as they don't affect my happiness and my comfort, it doesn't matter. But this is what is the basis of all my sadness or grief. This conclusion about myself and conclusion about Ishvara. Because Ishvara is what I am seeking and is remote, and I who is seeking is limited. And any effort, any amount of seeking does not remove limitedness of I. Any effort does not remove the remoteness of Ishvara. Karma doesn't do that. Karma can do what it can do, but I am trying to make limited into limitless by karma. I cannot become limitless. But that's what I want. Whether I like it or not, I am born with that essential want or desire that I want to be limitless. I cannot accept myself as a limited entity. So basic problem I have been saying all the time, that basic problem I have is my own self, with a limited self. I struggle constantly to become free from that limitedness. So one set of activities. The limitlessness, Ishvara is away from me, and therefore I am struggling again to bridge that gap. And so, asti, bhati, priyam, desire to always persist, desire to be enlightened, desire to love, desire to be happy. These desires basically arise from a false conclusion of myself. That I am a mortal being, I want to be immortal. I am an ignorant being, I want to be knowledgeable, wise. I am an unhappy being, I want to be happy. So how these wrong conclusions about the self, that happiness is remote, knowledge is remote, away from me. Immortality is different from me, knowledge is different from me, happiness is different from me. Trying to bridge that gap. And so Vedanta begins from there. You are not what you take yourself to be. That's where it begins. Ashochan and Ashocastam. Arjuna, you're grieving for that which does not deserve to be grieved for. You don't deserve to be grieved for. Apart from Bhishma, Drona, you are grieving for yourself. Even though outwardly I may feel that I am grieving for them, what will happen to them, ultimately what happens to me is of concern to me. Why should only Bhishma and Drona concern Arjuna? There are thousands of people going to die. It's not a big problem. The problem is these people. Because my comfort, my sense of well-being, etc., all depends upon them. So what will I do without them? I won't be comfortable, I won't be happy without them. And so constant struggle going on, all based on wrong assumption. That's what Vedanta says. The Vedanta the Brahmatma Jnana Purushada Sadhanatvam. Meaning that the limitlessness is not to be attained by an effort, it is to be known as an existing reality. That's called Jnanam. Jnanam is knowing what is. So when Vedanta says you are limitless, that the Vedanta reveals an existing fact. You who takes also limited being, see or recognize that you are limitless. Recognize how your limitedness is a conclusion, is false, is mithya. That's where mithya begins. You appear to be limited, and limitless appears to be limited, that's why the appearance is. But the world is mithya, people don't understand what is mithya. First is this is mithya. That I am a limited being is mithya. Oh, world is real, that is, the duality is real. Now, when you take yourself limited, duality becomes real. So Vedanta Veda, Brahmatma Jnana se Purushada Sadhanatvam, Brahmatma Jnanam, Vedanta Vehidam, which is taught by Vedanta, prescribed by Vedanta, enjoined by Vedanta, Shrotavya, Mantavya, Nidhyasavya, Drashtavya, Anvestavya, Vijignyasitavya, Brahmatma Jnanasya Purushad Sadhanatvam. That knowledge alone is sadhanam, is a means of purushartha. What purusha or a human being is seeking, this is the only means of fulfillment of what the human being is seeking. Tat swarupa kathana purvakam mumukshunam tad nishthatvam avashyakam darshayati. So Brahmatma Jnana says Swarupa Purvakam. What is Brahmatma Jnana? How does Vedanta teach that? Tat Swarupa Kathana Purvakam. So this Swarupa, the nature of Vedanta Jnana, what Vedanta teaches is Purvakam. So is, that is being stated by the teacher. So first that is what is stated. Mukshunam tad nishthatvam avashyakam. Then enjoins us. Look, this is what Vedanta teaches. Therefore, tad nishthatvam. And abidance in that, commitment to that, and abidance in pursuit of that knowledge, avashyakam, is important. It is not just enough to understand what Vedanta says, but then tad nishthatvam. There is called bhakti, tat paratvam. Tat paratvam, tad nishthatvam, a commitment to that knowledge, and doing whatever is required to fulfill that commitment. That's Shayadi. Because so many things are right now attracting me, tempting me, making me feel that they are very important to me. And therefore that is not those things that become distraction, it is the attachment to them or the temptation to them which is a lack of my viveka. My mind attaches values to things that are not valuable. And whatever is valuable is going to naturally distract my mind. And therefore that commitment does not come, that consistency to pursue does not come. So vairagya becomes very important. Satan nishthatvam avashyakam. Abidance in pursuit of knowledge is very important, avashyakam, necessary. In darshayati swasakshikam. So next verse is swasakshikam jnanamativa nirmalam vikalpanabhyo viparitam avapya samyak yadi nischito bhavet niranvayo nirvritimeti shashvatim. Swasakshikam jnanam swasakshikam ativa nirmalam vikalpanabhya viparitam advayam avapya. So Vedanta Vihita Brahmatma Jnanam. Tat Swarupa Kathana Purvakam. The Swarupa of the Vedanta Vihita Brahmatma Jnanam. The knowledge of Brahmatma, the identity of Brahmanatma, which is what is revealed by Vedanta, taught by Vedanta, enjoined by Vedanta. What is it? Swasakshikam Jnanam. So Jnanam Swasakshikam, Ativa Nirvalam, Vikalpanapih Viparidam, Advayam Jnanam Avapya. So this is what Vedanta is teaching. So Swasakshikam, not Swasamvedyam, understand. The reason why it's Swasakshikam is because the Buddha say that knowledge is Swasamvedyam, knowledge knows itself. Consciousness knows itself. The moment it knows itself, there is going to be a duality of knower and known. So it's Swasakshikam. The Vedanta knowledge is Swasakshikam, witness of oneself, not the knower of oneself. The reason why Swasakshikam is stated is to contrast it with the Swasamvedyam, as the Buddha say that Swasamvedyam is self-revealing, self-knowing, knows itself. But when you talk about knowledge, then the knower-known duality comes there. Swasakshikam, illumining itself, Swaprakasham. Not Swasamvedyam, Swaprakasham. Self-revealing. Because to reveal is its nature. Consciousness, nature. And that's only one thing that is self-revealing in the whole universe. Everything else reveals in the light of that alone. So, Atma, consciousness, that is Swasakshikam, Swaprakasham, self-revealing. Jnanam, Ativa Nirmalam. All of these have been stated earlier. How ever pure, Shuddham. How there is no scope of Shuddhi or impurity in this knowledge. Because no Ashuddhi can touch it, no Ashuddhi can ever contact it. It is beyond the reach of all Ashuddhi. Yato vacho nivartante aprapya manasahasa. Whatever is the object of speech and mind, they are going to be limited. What speech can describe is limited. What mind can visualize is limited. And the limited in itself is first Ashuddhi. Limitedness will be in time, place, in attributes. And therefore they are subject to being influenced by what is outside the boundaries. When something is confined to a boundary, it is going to be influenced by what is outside that boundary. And if those things are limited in time, place, etc., then this is going to be influenced by that. And therefore, Ativa Nirmalam, Vishuddham, ever pure, because it is non-dual. There is nothing other than the self to influence the self, contaminate the self. So, non-duality also means eva shuddhatvam, nitya shuddhatvam, ativa nirmalam. Not only nirmalam, but ever pure by itself, but then not subject to being contaminated. So by itself you can be pure, but you are likely to be contaminated by the company that you have, If Atma also has company, meaning if there is something as real as Atma, then there is bound to be influence. And there are two, both are going to be limited. Each limited to influence upon the other one. So limitedness will influence too, that is impurity. Jnanam, ativa nirmalam. ever pure. Vikalpanabhya viparidam. Quite different from the vikalpana. All kalpanas that have been made about jnanam, about the self also. Because moment you give reality to what you are experiencing, or you think that that's what you are experiencing, not reality means then you think that yes, you are experiencing limitedness. But that is a conclusion based on what you are experiencing. You are experiencing yourself because it's self-effulgent. You are experiencing limitedness also because that also reveals, but in light of self. So limitedness and self are not in the same location. And so that samadhikaranyatvam is not that we have brought them in one adhikaranam. It's aviveka. So that is the conclusion due to aviveka, not conclusion about what is. Now who will ever suspect this? That my intimate feeling that I am limited. That's what my mind says, that's what my gut says. And so who will question that? You need someone else. Then I am lost, 10th man is lost, there is no way for me to question my conclusion. Because all search of 10th man results into not finding the 10th man. And therefore, in fact, my conclusion that 10th man is lost alone becomes confounded. Nothing can happen for this person that can ever create doubt in his conclusion that 10th man is lost. In fact, more he does not find, more firm he becomes that fellow is lost. So nothing can happen in my life that can make me feel I am limitless. As long as the feeling I is there, so long limitedness is there. As long as bhoktritvam is there, then there is going to be limitedness. And when there is a moment of limitlessness, I am not there around. When you are lost in something, then this person is not there. And therefore, it is impossible to arrive at this insight that I am limitless. Even if you arrive at the insight that what you are perceiving is not, it is the superimposition or it is the projection of something else. But there's something else still different from you. Even though this world is relative, it is projection of something that is not relative. But whatever that is still different from you. So one does not question oneself. Keeps on questioning what you are experiencing and arriving at very much greater understanding what you are experiencing. No doubt. Which is not an ordinary thing at all, but still. So vikalpana viparidam advayam. The conclusion that duality is real, advayam. Is a Vedanta Veda Brahmatma Jnanam. Tat Swarupa Kathana Purvakam, preceded by the statement of the nature of knowledge that Vedanta reveals, is this. Avapya, gaining this knowledge, gaining this understanding, gaining this conviction. Mumukshunam tad nishchatum avashyakam yadarshayati. Avapya samyak yadi nischito bhaved. If one becomes nischitam, one becomes convinced, then one develops conviction that this is what is. Vikalpana, any other kalpana doesn't make sense. How can you say, Swami, that you are limited? Why do you think it is kalpana and not reality? The limitedness is my nature. What's wrong with that? Why cannot not be reality about you? It cannot be because every time I see myself limited, I don't like myself. The limited I do not like. And therefore it comes to my nature. I am not comfortable with limited I. I should be comfortable with reality. But I am not comfortable with limited I. And therefore the limited I cannot be the reality about me. That is how avyapya samyak avapya. That when this conviction is very clear and firm, yadi nischito bhavet, then one becomes firmly convinced about this, then of course, as earlier was said that mumukshavaha jnanapathe sthiraha syuhu, then mumukshus becomes sthiraha, firmly committed to jnanapatham, to the path of knowledge, as prescribed by Vedanta. Then what happens? That there is a great reward in that conviction, and then the pursuit that comes as a result of conviction. I get distracted now and then because the conviction is not firm. Anything can distract me, anything can attract me, can tempt me, because I am not quite convinced about this one. The other things cannot, that's why they can. So I am not sure that what is on my shoulder is a goat. Those crooks will come. The Brahmana went to other village. He needed a goat. He bought one, carrying on his shoulder, was returning. So 3 crooks decided to cheat him and take away the goat from him. So they were hiding behind the trees on the path, return path. The first fellow came out. Oh Brahmadev, how are you? This, that, and so forth. And hey, it's very strange. You are carrying a dog on your shoulders. What do you mean that? This is not a dog, this is a goat. No, I see it as a dog. I know that it's a goat. I bought it. After a second fellow comes up and then says, how are you, this, that, and so forth. And I thought you are a Brahmana, a very pure person. How come you are carrying a dog on your shoulder? No, I'm not. But now that the doubt has arisen, the third fellow comes out and says, he throws away his son. So when the conviction is not firm, a lot of things can shake me up. And we are shaken up in our life. So that firmness on that path is not there. Often I cheat myself, I make myself believe. But anyway, so what is the reward? Niranvayo nirvutameti shasvatim yadi nischito bhavet. So this is what is called vairagya. Freedom from raga for anything other than Atma or the knowledge. That's called vairagya. Then other thing will not attract me, will not tempt me, will not deviate me. So the Tikakara says, so Advayam Jnanam explains that Akhanda vastu matra akaram ityartha. Akhanda, there is no khanda. There is no duality between Brahman and Atma. So akhanda vastu. Vastu is akhanda. Undivided, indivisible. So that is the vastu, that is the truth of the reality. And knowledge should be true to that. Knowledge should be true to the nature of the object of knowledge. So Gneyam Yattat Pravakshami, Lord Krishna says, Anadimat Param Brahma Nasattanna Saduchyate. So therefore, akhanda, advaya, akhanda vastu matrakaram. Knowledge must be the same akara as the nature of vastu, which is akhanda, advayam. Niranvaya, niranvaya, san, niranvaya, nirasta, ajnana, tatkarya, sambandha, sanityataha. He becomes niranvaya. Anvaya is the persistence. Niranvaya, this does not persist. What is it? Nirasta, ajnana, tatkarya, sambandha. Becomes devoid of all anvaya, all connections. What connection? Ajnana, tatkarya, sambandha. So connected with ignorance. Ajnana karyam is ahankara, mamakara, etc. Ajnana karyam. In fact, Atma doesn't have a connection with them. With adhyasika sambandha is there anyway. The connection is only because of adhyasa, not real connection. Purusha prakriti stoye bhungte prakriti jan gunan. So Purusha entertaining the identification with Prakriti, taking Prakriti as one's own self. So this is how Anvaya happens. That's how connection happens. With Ajnana, Tatkaryam, Ahankaram, Mamakaram, and everything else, Niranvaya, when the true nature of oneself is recognized, then ignorance, Tatkara, Ahankara, Mamakara, nothing else remains there. So Niranvaya, San. So this is what happens. Niranvaya San, Shasvatim Nirvatim Eti. Because that Anvaya, that connection, that superimposition only created the sense of dukkha or grief. Nirvritim means ananda, akhandananda swarupam. Nirvriti means ananda. So shasvatim nirvritim. Now and then we do get ananda, but shasvatim nirvritim. The persistent, the eternal ananda, call it shanti, shasvatim shantim netaresham, tesham shantim shasvatim netaresham, tesham sukham shasvatam netaresham. That's Kathopanishad says. Nirvritihi akhandananda anubhava swarupa avirbhava. So it is not that we are experiencing akhandananda, experiencing limitless ananda. There is no experience or experience. You are the akhandananda. It says avirbhava, akhandananda, anubhava swarupa avirbhava. So as that anvaya goes away, anvaya with the ahankara, with the jnanam, ahankara, mamaka, as it goes, then there is an avirbhava, the manifestation of true nature, which is always manifesting, seeking to assert itself. But its avidya, ahankara, mamaka is always suppressing it. The Atma is always seeking to manifest, make itself known. But this is what is suppressing it. And so, that's what becomes an obstacle in the manifestation of Atma. So not that you become something, you already are. So meaning that your notion about it also undergoes transformation, that's all it is. What is meant by knowledge is that your perception of it also completely undergoes transformation. So this is the result of the reward of this knowledge, and therefore a firm conviction is required and freedom from all doubts are required to help the mumukshu accomplish this. We have done what we have done, first revealed the nature of the self and also then revealed the inconsistency in other thinkings, so that you are convinced about what you are and free from doubts about what other views are there, and this is the reward of that. So, this is how concluding the chapter beautifully. The teacher says, we'll see. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः। ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेदविभागिने व्योमवद्व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। हरि ओम। श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः। हरि ओम।